He used to tell me almost daily that I was nothing, a burden, a pretty distraction at best. At first, I laughed it off, convinced myself it was harmless teasing. But every barb left a bruise, and over the years, the bruises multiplied into something I couldn't hide from myself anymore. I waited, silent and patient, letting his arrogance grow fat while I tucked away my anger like loose change in a hidden jar. Then, the day he lost his job, I drained the joint account, packed my bags, and walked out. Now he's broke, unemployed, and sleeping in his childhood bedroom at his mother's house. My phone lights up with his number 30 times a day. He leaves voicemails where his voice is raw, begging, raging, alternating between promises of love and curses sharp enough to cut glass. I don't answer. It all began at Omal's, a dim little bar downtown with sticky floors and cheap drinks, the kind of place office workers crowd into on Fridays, desperate to forget cubicles and fluorescent lights. I was there with a few colleagues from the insurance office, still in my button-down blouse, hair frizzing from the summer humidity. That's when Charles found me. He was magnetic in that way some men are when they're convinced the world belongs to them. He bought me a White Claw without asking what I liked, told me about his middle management job at Midwest Manufacturing, and laughed like the punchline to life was his alone to tell. He looked straight at me, as if he'd chosen me out of the whole smoky bar. And I, so hungry to be chosen, believed it. We married after 2 years. My friends whispered that it was too fast, especially Sandra, my best friend since high school. She had this way of tilting her head, skeptical, protective, but I silenced her doubts with my certainty. Looking back, maybe I was desperate to prove her wrong, desperate to prove to myself that love could be simple if I clung to it tightly enough. The red flags were there. The way he insisted we merge our finances the week after the wedding, that's what married couples do. His smirk when he said, "Good thing you've got me to handle the money. You'd probably waste it all on Target runs." Everyone laughed. I laughed too. That was my first mistake. The jokes turned sharper once the accounts were joined. $7 for organic milk? No wonder I have to watch the statements. Or when I earned a small raise. It's not like your management material, but I guess it's cute they gave you something. Whenever I hinted at wanting a promotion, he'd shoot it down with a lazy smile. That's not really your lane, honey. Besides, I make enough for both of us. Always followed by, just teasing. You know I love you. And I believed him because wasn't that what marriage looked like? My father had done the same to my mother. Constant digs about her cooking, her hobbies, her weight. I thought I was simply replaying the script I'd inherited. 2 years ago, the shifts began. Charles came home later, and later. 6 o'clock became 7, then 8. He'd smell of beer, or worse, of unfamiliar cologne. My questions were dismissed with a smirk. Drinks with the guys, entertaining a client. Cute that you worry about me. Maybe focus on stocking the fridge with more LaCroix instead. Our intimacy frayed. He stopped touching me unless he'd been drinking. When I reached for him, he'd study my body with casual cruelty. "You've got that little pouch now," he'd say, poking my stomach. Or, "Your boobs look different since you put on a few pounds." I was still the same size I'd been when we met, 5'6", a steady 145 pounds. But suddenly, I felt monstrous. And when I pulled away, he punished me with offhand remarks. "This is why men cheat. Wives stop putting out." He never confessed, but the suggestion hovered in the air like a loaded gun. Then came the money. Last summer, I noticed our savings shrinking, though our expenses hadn't changed. When I asked, Charles exploded. "Are you spying on me? Don't you trust me? I'm the one bringing in real money here." He slammed the door so hard one of our framed photos fell, the glass splintering across the floor. That night, while he snored beside me, I scrolled through our joint account. Small withdrawals, always Fridays, $200 here, $300 there. Over months, it added up to thousands. My stomach knotted. The next day, I whispered my worries to Joseph, the co-worker in the cubicle beside mine. He was always bragging about his Robinhood account, crypto trades I didn't understand. "That sounds shady," he said, lowering his voice. "You should start saving separately, just in case." "In case of what?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Joseph just looked at me, and I felt the truth like a weight in my chest. That night, I opened a secret Capital One account with an email Charles didn't know about. I redirected a small sliver of each paycheck, $100 at first. It was barely noticeable, but it was mine. And for the first time in years, I felt the faintest flicker of control. They say cruelty doesn't come all at once. It drips, slow and steady, until it drowns you. For years, my husband sharpened his tongue on me, carving little wounds with every joke, every casual insult, every reminder that without him, I was nothing. I endured it in silence, letting him believe I was weak, all while quietly setting the stage for my escape. When his empire of pride crumbled, his job gone, his paycheck gone, his swagger gone, I walked away, pockets lined with the savings he thought he controlled. Now, he's broke, jobless, sulking in his mother's spare room, dialing my phone 30 times a day like an addict desperate for a fix. I don't answer. Not anymore. The night I first met Charles feels like another lifetime. Ols, the bar downtown that smelled of beer and fried food, was buzzing with Friday night noise. My co-workers from the insurance office had dragged me out for drinks after a long week of clerical grind. That's when he appeared. Confident, easy smile, the type of man who filled a space as though he owned it. He bought me a White Claw without asking, launched into stories of his middle management job at Midwest Manufacturing, and made me feel absurdly chosen. Out of everyone at that crowded bar, he wanted me. Or so I thought. 2 years later, I was Mrs. Charles. My best friend Sandra warned me I was rushing. "People hide who they really are for at least 3 years," she said, but I waved her off. I was in love. He insisted we merge our finances right away, because that's what married couples do. I agreed, not noticing the smug tilt of his grin as he joked. "Good thing you've got me to handle the money. You'd probably blow it all on Target runs." Everyone laughed. I laughed too. Back then, I didn't hear the blade beneath the humour. The jokes sharpened after that. If I bought organic milk, $7? This is why I checked the statements. If I earned a tiny raise at work, well, it's not like your management material, but hey, cute that they gave you something. When I whispered dreams of a promotion, he smirked. "Honey, that's not really your lane. Besides, I make enough for both of us." And always, always, he wrapped the cruelty in a bow of false affection. "I'm teasing. You know I love you." I told myself this was normal. My parents had lived in a similar rhythm. My father's mockery, my mother's brittle smile. But slowly, the cracks widened. He began coming home later, first by an hour, then 2. Some nights he reeked of beer, other nights of department store cologne. When I asked, he rolled his eyes, claiming client dinners or drinks with the guys. He'd pat my cheek like I was a child. "Your jealousy's adorable. Why don't you just worry about keeping La Croix in the fridge?" Our intimacy withered. He only touched me when drunk, and even then with a detachment that hollowed me out. When I initiated, he deflected with comments that cut deeper than silence. "You've got a little pooch now," he'd say, poking my stomach, or "Your boobs look different since you gained weight." I was the same as I'd always been, 5'6", 145 pounds, but under his gaze I shrank, ashamed of a body that had once been enough. I began to turn away at night, arms crossed, heart armoured. He noticed, and he used it against me. "This is why men cheat," he muttered once, scrolling through Instagram without looking at me. Last summer, the truth slipped. Our savings account was lower than it should have been. When I asked, he exploded, veins bulging, voice shaking with manufactured outrage. "Are you checking up on me? Don't you trust me? I'm the one who makes real money here." He slammed the door so hard the framed photo we'd chosen together shattered against the floor. That night, while he snored beside me, I lay awake, cold and buzzing with fear. On my phone, I scrolled through our bank statements. The pattern was clear. Friday, withdrawals, $200 here, $300 there, small enough to pass unnoticed, steady enough to bleed us dry. Over months, thousands vanished into smoke. The next day at work, I whispered about it to Joseph, the guy in the cubicle beside mine. He's the type who tracks crypto charts for fun, his eyes lighting up whenever the market twitches. He frowned. "That's shady," he said. "You should start saving separately, just in case." "In case of what?" I asked, already knowing. Joseph didn't answer. He just gave me a look, pity threaded with truth. That night, I opened a secret account. Capital One, registered under an email Charles didn't know existed. I funneled off $100 from each paycheck. Small at first, invisible. He never noticed. Men, like Charles, never do. I began taking extra shifts at the office whenever claims piled up, telling Charles I was helping out while quietly pocketing the overtime pay. Every dollar funneled into my secret account was a step closer to freedom. Christmas came, bitter and sharp. Charles stumbled home from his company holiday party, red-faced and furious. "They passed me over again," he spat, tearing at his tie. "William, that arse kisser, probably on his knees for the VP. That's the kind of thing your type does, right? People who aren't promotion material." I stood in our kitchen, the Christmas lights twinkling mockingly above us, and saw him clearly for the first time. My husband wasn't just cruel. He was mediocre. At work, at home, at life. The thought felt like betrayal. But once it struck me, I couldn't unthink it. January only deepened the rot. My pasta was inedible. My best friend Sandra was impossible to please, like someone else I know. My sister's children were too loud. Guess that runs in your family. I started documenting it all in the Notes app on my phone. Date, time, exact words. At first, I wasn't sure why. Maybe to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. Over time, the log became a strange kind of comfort. Evidence, a quiet ledger of his cruelty. February revealed the final crack. A forgotten laptop, a blinking email notification, and there it was. A Capital One card I didn't know existed. Charges from Lucky Star Entertainment. VIP room. Google confirmed what my gut already knew. Strip clubs near his office. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I doubled my savings transfers and started scrolling Zillow listings at lunch, imagining the silence of my own apartment. By March, rumours of layoffs stirred his paranoia. He drank more, insulted sharper. "If I lose my job, you'll finally have to learn what real work is," he sneered, while I silently counted the paychecks left before my exit plan was airtight. And then, last week, it happened. He called me at work, voice tight with rage. "They let me go. William's department was spared. Diversity hire, probably." My pulse hammered as he ranted, but all I heard was freedom whispering closer. That night, he staggered in at 2 a.m., reeking of whiskey and bitterness, muttering about ungrateful wives who didn't appreciate a man's sacrifices. I lay still, feigning sleep, while his words slurred into the dark. The next morning, while he snored into his pillow, I shifted thousands from our joint savings into the account with my name alone. When he finally woke, bloodshot and surly, he announced his decree. "We're moving in with your parents until I find something. You'll give notice at your little job. Not like your income matters anyway." I nodded, lips sealed, heart racing. What he didn't know, the lease on my new apartment had already been approved. The key would be mine in days. "What? No opinion?" he sneered. "Of course not. You never have anything valuable to say." Something inside me, 8 years of swallowed insults, dimmed laughter, quiet humiliation, crystallized into razor clarity. I looked at him, really looked at him. Thinning hair, sagging jawline, belly pressing against the waistband of jeans that no longer fit. An ordinary man who had spent years convincing me I was less than him. "Actually," I said softly, my voice steadier than I felt, "I do have an opinion." And I told him. All of it. That I was leaving. That I'd been planning it for months. That I knew about the strip clubs, the missing money, the endless lies. His face shifted like a storm. Shock, disbelief, rage, and finally, fear. "You can't leave," he stammered. "You're nothing without me. Who's going to want you? You can't even manage money." I smiled, reached for the suitcase I'd packed weeks earlier. "Watch me," I whispered and walked out. It's been 3 days. I'm writing this from my new apartment. Nothing grand, just a 1-bedroom overlooking a park, but it's mine. My phone lights up constantly. 37 missed calls today, 19 texts, voicemails swinging wildly between tear-soaked apologies and vicious threats. He's realized the savings are gone, drained by my careful hand. Legal, every penny. My name was on the accounts too. Charles is now a man stripped bare. No job, no wife, no money. Just a childhood bedroom in his mother's house and the echo of his own cruelty. And me? For the first time in years, I can breathe. His childhood bedroom and his bruised pride, those are all he has left now. Update. It's been a week since I walked out, and first I need to say thank you. Every message of support, every comment, every quiet voice telling me I wasn't crazy has carried me through nights when doubt clawed at me. You don't know how much that matters. The first shock wasn't freedom. It was something smaller, pettier, almost absurd. I realized I hadn't packed a phone charger. My first night alone, my phone glowed at 12% while I lay awake in a too-bright room, too anxious to sleep, watching YouTube videos about how to organize tiny apartments with the brightness turned low. The apartment itself? It creaks and clicks. The bathroom fan makes a sound like a clock ticking down to some invisible deadline. The neighbor's kid practices violin at 7 a.m., shaky, squeaky scales that split the quiet. But it's mine. Yesterday, I bought a shower curtain from Target, tassels and all. Charles would have sneered, called it basic white girl decor, laughed about how I couldn't even pick out bathroom accessories without his approval. For once, I didn't have to care. Charles hasn't stopped trying to break through my silence. 127 calls in 7 days, 89 texts, 15 voicemails. They started syrupy. "Baby, please, I'm sorry. Come home." Then turned venomous. "You ungrateful bitch! You're nothing without me." The last one wasn't words at all. Just 2 minutes of him breathing, heavy and deliberate like a threat. Yesterday, his mother appeared at my office, mascara streaked, wringing her hands. She told me Charles hasn't eaten, hasn't showered, keeps mumbling about losing everything. For a moment, guilt pricked me. Then she said, "He's sorry about the strip clubs, honey. Men just need attention sometimes when their wives don't." And just like that, the guilt evaporated, replaced by a rage so clean it almost burned. I didn't tell her about the gambling, the online poker receipts buried in his inbox, the payday loans, the $23,000 of debt I uncovered while gathering documents. She still thinks I'm the villain who abandoned her golden boy at his lowest. Let her. The truth would shatter her anyway. The strangest part isn't the quiet. It's how empty routine feels when it's only for me. Making coffee for one, grocery shopping for one, learning I actually hate the bread Charles insisted on, the one he said was better for me. Coming home to silence instead of an inventory of my failures. I still catch myself waiting for his opinion before I make choices, only to remember I don't need permission anymore. Sandra has been my anchor. She shows up with takeout, helps me arrange my mismatched furniture, lets me cry over the most ridiculous things. Yesterday, I broke down in Target because I couldn't decide between plastic or velvet hangers. She just held me in the storage aisle while I sobbed about hangers. Peak dignity. The financial mess is unraveling fast. Charles finally realised I'd moved most of our savings, and now he's telling anyone who'll listen that I stole from him. Conveniently leaving out the part where my name was on those accounts, and where I only reclaimed what I'd earned. His former co-worker William, the one Charles loathed, the one who got the promotion he wanted, actually messaged me on Facebook. He congratulated me. Said the truth was, Charles had been sabotaging him for months, slurring him in meetings, poisoning his reputation. That's why Charles was fired. Not layoffs, not office politics, his own poison. Last night, I ordered pizza. Pineapple, the topping. Charles swore proved you had no taste. I ate it sitting cross-legged on my new couch, the cheap one he would have mocked, watching a reality show he used to say was rotting my brain. I wore the Target leggings he sneered at as lazy person clothes. The pizza was a little cold by the last slice, a little lonely, but it tasted like freedom. I'm still shaky. Some mornings, pride holds me upright. Others, doubt pulls me under. This morning I stared at my reflection for 20 minutes, searching for the worthless woman he insisted I was. Instead, I saw me. Tired, scared, but still here, still standing. Charles is still holed up in his mother's house, still jobless, still calling. His latest tactic, Charles's newest tactic, is recruiting his friends' wives to call me, voices dripping with pity, warning that I'm tearing apart a family. Meanwhile, I'm busy learning how to build one of my own. From scratch, from silence, from scars. Second update. I hadn't planned to write again so soon, but today rattled me. Writing feels like the only way to set the panic down. It started with what should have been nothing. A DoorDash delivery, Thai food from the little spot down the block. I was working from home, waiting for the internet installer when the doorbell rang. I opened it without thinking. It wasn't the driver, it was Charles. He stood there on my threshold, thinner, unshaven, his college hoodie hanging off him like old skin. He held a bouquet from the grocery store, plastic wrap still crinkling, the $9.99 sticker glaring like an insult. For one terrible second, muscle memory almost made me step aside. Almost. Instead, I slammed the door and shoved the deadbolt home with trembling hands. "Babe, come on," his voice leaked through the wood, familiar and suffocating. "I just want to talk. I've changed. I'm going to therapy." He isn't. Betty already told Sandra he refused to go. I pressed my back to the door, silent, heart pounding so hard I thought the hinges might rattle. For 45 minutes he circled through his repertoire. "I'm sorry. You're overreacting. Remember how good we were? You're nothing without me. I love you. I hate you. Come back. You ungrateful bitch." The words bled together into a single nauseating song. My neighbour, the elderly woman across the hall who waters my plants when I forget, was the one who finally called the police. By the time they arrived, Charles was gone. Not before sliding a letter under my door. It's still on my kitchen counter, sealed, silent, pulsing like a bomb I don't dare touch. The officers were kind but weary, as if they'd seen this 100 times. They filed a report, told me to call if he returned, suggested cameras. I've already ordered them. Turns out, Charles got my new address from Betty, who begged Sandra's sister because she was worried about me. I can't even be angry at her anymore. She's just another victim of his orbit, still convinced her son is the one bleeding. After the police left, I sat in my bathroom, perched on the closed toilet lid, scrolling TikTok on autopilot while my lungs forgot how to breathe. Not a cinematic meltdown, just the slow collapse of panic. I called out of work. My boss understood. Apparently she's been through something eerily similar. It's shocking how many women nod knowingly when you peel back the silence. Sandra came over that night with wine and frozen Trader Joe's apps, like we were back in college. We didn't say his name. We watched trash TV and debated whether the water stain on my ceiling looked more like a duck or a rabbit. For a few hours, we laughed. But the thing that lodged itself deepest wasn't the fear. It was how small he looked. Not just thinner, but diminished, like someone had drained the power from him. For years, he made me feel tiny. Now, seeing him there with his cheap flowers and hollow threats, he seemed smaller than the shadow he cast. Don't mistake me. I'm still scared. I still jump every time my phone buzzes. I still check my rearview mirror too often. I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. But the fear has edges now. It doesn't swallow me whole. Some practical updates. I changed all my passwords again. Finally, signed up for my own Netflix account. Goodbye to his condescending watch list. The Ring camera is on its way. I started real therapy, not the pretend kind Charles swears he's doing. And yesterday, I adopted a cat from the shelter. Her name is Potato, and she judges me with wide, unblinking eyes, as if to say, "Really? You chose plastic hangers?" Life keeps going. The dishwasher still needs unloading. The plants still need watering. Potato still needs her litter box cleaned. The world doesn't stop just because your ex-husband has a meltdown on your doorstep. Oh, and the DoorDash driver eventually showed up. The pad thai was cold. I ate it anyway. The letter still sits on the counter. The letter still sits on my counter. Part of me wants to burn it. Part of me wants to read it. Most of me just wants to erase the entire day, to scrub it clean like it never happened. Third update. Yesterday, I went to Whole Foods. A small act of indulgence. $12 tarts mac and cheese from the hot bar. Don't judge. I needed comfort food. That's when I rammed carts with William. Yes, that William. The man Charles swore ruined his career. The villain of every drunken rant. Multiply the awkwardness of bumping into an old co-worker by 1,000 when it's the person your ex-husband painted as your secret lover. I froze. But William only smiled, asked how I was doing, like none of the lies mattered. We ended up at the Starbucks inside the store, coffee cooling between us as he told me the truth. Charles hadn't been fired because of downsizing. He hadn't lost his job to William. He'd been caught falsifying expense reports. Strip club, client dinners filed as business meetings. Hundreds of dollars for team lunches that were really just him, alone at sports bars, betting on games. The company even gave him an out. Repay the money, accept a demotion. Instead, he exploded, ranted about William, made threats HR couldn't ignore. William pulled out his phone, showed me screenshots, Charles's texts, slurs, threats, venom, and then the kicker. Charles had been telling everyone at work that William was sleeping with me, a man I'd never even spoken to until that moment in Starbucks. I sat there holding my coffee, stone cold, realizing the stranger I'd left was even more of a stranger than I thought. Other updates. Potato has decided 3 a.m. is the ideal hour to practice parkour. My Ring doorbell arrived, worth every penny. I finally read Charles's letter, but only in therapy. 8 pages of contradictions. Apologies that curdled into blame, pleading lines undercut by insults. Reading it felt like standing in a funhouse mirror, distorted versions of the life I lived. I've started doing yoga in my living room, following YouTube videos. Charles always said yoga was for people not smart enough for real exercise. I roll out my mat and breathe anyway. I also found an old journal from when we first started dating. Pages of worship. Lines like, "I'm so lucky he chose me. I just need to be better. Try harder." One entry described how I spent 3 hours cooking his favourite dinner after he told me my food tasted like it was made by someone who hated eating. I read those entries and want to reach back in time, shake that girl, tell her she didn't need to shrink to be loved. Betty called again. She began with the usual script. Charles is not eating, Charles is crying, Charles is devastated. But then she slipped. "He's just like his father," she said softly. And suddenly I saw the whole pattern. Charles's father hadn't left for a new job, as Charles always claimed. He'd left after gambling away their savings, maxing out credit cards in Betty's name. History repeating itself, generation to generation. I'm not angry anymore. Not really. It's more like the feeling when you peel off shoes that have been cutting into your skin all day. Relief is immediate, but the indents take time to fade. Some things that have changed in 3 months. I watch whatever I want on TV without commentary. My grocery bill is half what it used to be. Turns out protein bars and energy drinks were his vice, not mine. I sleep through most nights. I bought plants and, shockingly, haven't killed them yet. I laugh. Not the quiet, edited laugh Charles said was more attractive, but my real laugh, loud and unpretty, and mine. Some things haven't changed. I still check my rearview mirror obsessively. I still jump when my phone rings. I still apologize automatically for things that don't need apologies. I still freeze when decisions feel too big. Laundry detergent, hangers, even what to cook for dinner. And sometimes, against all logic, I still miss him. Like last week, when I saw his favourite cereal on sale. My body moved toward it before my brain caught up. Before we left Starbucks, William handed me his card. Told me to call if I ever needed anything. Not flirty, not loaded, just kindness. Simple, solid, human kindness. And I realised that's something Charles never once offered me. William wasn't offering a lifeline in that Starbucks, just kindness. He's happily married, 5 years and counting. He wasn't flirting. He just understood. Sometimes that's enough. Final update. I was at Target yesterday, shopping for storage bins, because apparently adulthood means getting excited about organising plastic boxes, when I heard a voice behind me. "You don't want those. The lids crack." I turned, and there was Betty, my former mother-in-law, holding a bag of cat litter. For a moment, I froze. My cart was filled with the unmistakable markers of single life. Frozen meals for one, a lavender room spray TikTok convinced me to try, a new shower curtain with tassels. Evidence of my life without her son. But Betty just smiled. Not strained, not judgmental. Tired, yes, but genuine. "That cat litter you recommended for Potato? I got some too. I adopted a cat." We stood there in the aisle surrounded by bins and hangers, and she told me Charles had finally moved out of her house. He's sleeping on a friend's couch now, still unemployed, still spinning the same story where everyone else is to blame. But Betty looked lighter. She's going to therapy, joined a book club. We grabbed coffee at the in-store Starbucks, 2 women talking about cats and novels and how impossible it is to find decent storage containers. Then she said, "I'm sorry, not just for him, for me, for not seeing it sooner. He's so much like his father, and I didn't want to admit it." Life since my last update looks different. I've moved into a slightly better apartment. This one has a dishwasher. Potato has accepted that 3 a.m. is not, in fact, parkour time. I finally blocked Charles on everything after his latest meltdown. I got my first credit card in my own name. I'm teaching myself to cook, though my smoke alarm remains my harshest critic. Healing, I've learned, lives in the mundane. Realizing I'd been buying Charles's favourite snacks for months before remembering I don't even like salt and vinegar chips. Apologising to my coffee maker when I bumped into it. Still working on that. The constant apologies. But I've had victories too, small on the surface, enormous underneath. Ordering food without checking the price 3 times. Wearing red lipstick on a Tuesday, the shade Charles once said made me look trashy. Using the good towels just because. Calling my mom without rehearsing the script in my head first. The bad days still come. Yesterday, I stood in the toothpaste aisle for 20 minutes, nearly in tears, overwhelmed by choices. But the good days outnumber them now. Charles lingers at the edges of my world. I hear about him through mutual friends, how he made a scene at a wedding, drunk and ranting that I stole his life, how he tells people I cheated with William, that I drained his accounts, that I broke him. But the truth is simpler. He was broken long before me. And the strangest part is, I don't care anymore. Not in the dramatic sense of triumph, but in the quiet way you stop noticing a background noise once it's gone. Before we left Target, Betty hugged me, said she was proud, asked if I'd like to get coffee again sometime. I said maybe, and I meant it. The bins I bought, the ones she recommended, are sitting in my living room now, waiting to be filled. Potato has already claimed one, curled up inside, purring as though she owns it. Cats are strange that way. This will probably be my last update. Not because life is perfect. It's not. I still jump when my phone rings, still rehearse conversations in my head, still catch myself trying to be smaller, quieter, easier. But I'm learning, growing, healing. And if you're in a place like the one I was in, you're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not overreacting. And you are absolutely, undeniably not nothing.